Adebiyi Sijibomi Benet. He is a social commentator and he'll be joining us to have the conversation this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Adebiyi Sijibomi Benet.
Thank you for having me. Good morning and good morning to the viewers.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Sorry about that. I
Right.
should have wished you that earlier.
Nah, it's okay. 2024 was a whole lot for individuals and for us as a country. And in that same 2024, Nigeria experienced an escalation in capital flight. This morning, we're talking about lessons from 2024, what Nigeria must change to achieve economic stability in 2025. Now, let me ask you, what factors drove high net worth individuals and investors to remove their funds from our economy, and what does this indicate about investor confidence, considering the fact that we saw a lot of businesses exit Nigeria last year?
Yeah, one thing we have to understand is that there are two kinds of investment in Nigeria. We have the portfolio investment, which people call the briefcase investment. Then we have the real FDI, which is people that invest in the country in terms of manufacturing, in terms of real infrastructure, and they put their money into the country. So for want of unnecessary advertisement, so I won't mention like examples of that. But with
Absolutely.
portfolio investment, the people who bring their money into the stock exchange, who bring their money into treasury bills and all these other short-term, let me say, pecuniary facilities. So what that means is at the end of the year, everybody will want to count their gains and losses. So they take their money out of the system. So they look at what they've been able to do at the end of the year. So that's why you see a lot of capital flight, see a lot of capital being taken from the system. But at the same time, around that period is when you see a lot of surge in diaspora remittances, if you get what I mean. So you see that can be balanced with the diaspora remittances. So if you look at the exchange rate around that time, even with people taking out their money, taking out their investment, the diaspora remittances balanced that up, and we didn't see a lot of devaluation in the value of the naira.
All right, thank you very much. Now, still talking about over-dependence on oil revenue. Even the airline operators are complaining that they are not recuperating money in Nigeria. We don't even have a national carrier, and we want to diversify the economy. What are the ways, or what can the federal government do, especially for these airline operators, to help them recuperate, because most of them are leaving the country?
Any business that says they are not getting their money in Nigeria, for me, I think they're clever by half, because the challenge of the airline operators, especially the international airline operators, in the beginning of 2024 and very late in 2023, was the fact that all their monies they were not able to move their money. Their monies were trapped in Nigeria. Let me put it that way. So we had a situation whereby $7.8 billion was holding the airlines.
Yes.
But the central bank governor was able to sort that. Now, Nigeria is one of the biggest markets in the world.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. And we're one of the biggest travelers in the world. Any plane you get into, be it KLM or all these other planes all the airlines that are from, let me say, Western European countries that are not really big countries, you still see Nigerians a majority of the flyers. So when you look at that, nobody can joke with the Nigerian market. So, and a very good illustration for me is when people say they've not made enough money and the economy is tough. But at the end of the day, you see the telecommunications companies, now they want higher tariff. Look at the last net profit, not gross profit, net profit in Nigeria. Look at the banks, what they are declining in terms of net profit. So I think it's just these investors want to make much more money, and the regulatory agencies in Nigeria, if you have any, should step up their game. That what every country does is marginal profit, not ridiculous profits, because when you don't do marginal profit, you make all these investors and you make even your citizens that are invested in your country to milk and extort your citizenry.
Right. Okay, so, just a few more, maybe one more question before we go because of our time. Despite our plentiful natural resources, which you rightfully stated not too long ago, Nigeria still struggled to maintain a high industrial growth in 2024. Now, how did issues such as high energy costs and policy uncertainties, limit the manufacturing sector's contribution to GDP?
The first thing that limited the manufacturing sector contribution to GDP, like you rightly said, is power. So the issue of power has to be sorted in 2025. You can recall how many shutdowns we had last year. I think at the point in time was at the last count it was 13. 12 or 13. So we have to limit that. We have to build clusters of industries whereby people can have access, manufacturers can have access to power without joining the national grid, like what we've done in Aurora market, what we have done in Surah market and one other market in Kano. So all those things have to be planned. Then another thing the government has to do also is the tax bill we have, because it's very, very beneficial. All the gray areas, all the challenging areas, we have to make sure that the government tries to talk to the people, get the stakeholders to amend and come to a middle ground, make sure that is passed. Then we look at all the policies that can help manufacturers, that can help SMEs. So with that, I think 2025 will be a bright year for us. All the statistics, all the predictions are pointing in the right direction, pointing to the positive direction, but we still have to do the work.
All right, quickly, in less than a minute, let's talk about the foreign exchange, the Naira. It rose, yes, it went to 1,007, then I think it stood between 1,640, 660. That's where it's still dangling at the point. What can be done? I know a lot of experts have said that whether you're buying, whether you're exporting or importing, let the transaction be done in Naira. But what do you recommend? What's the lasting solution to bring down Naira? I mean, there was a point when Naira was just 300 Naira to $1. But, I mean, what can be done? What lasting remedy do you recommend?
There are short-term, mid-term, and long-term approaches, in my opinion. Short-term, Nigeria is the only country, I say it all the time when I have the opportunity on any platform, Nigeria is the only country in the world where you hawk currencies. Naira is being hawked at the moment because you can only go to the POS to buy Naira, most times. Dollar is being hawked everywhere, so no country in the world does that. So CIT, you protect your currency, you protect your identity, and you protect your territory. Those are what big countries do, and that's why they are big. Now, another thing is all having domiciliary accounts in dollars and all that. We have to cancel that. That's the same thing. Nigeria is the only country where you have that in the world. In every same clime I know, nobody does that. If you open in pounds, you can only trade in pounds or open accounts in pounds in the UK. Same thing in dollars in the US. But here you can have pounds account, have dollar account, have all these various accounts. Now, the midterm is to make sure that we invest in security and try to move our production to 2.5 million barrels or 3 million barrels per day, because the more dollars you hand, the more you are able to build your forex. Then the long-term approach, which is the power sector, we have to go back to manufacturing. Gone are the days when I was growing up, where you have Bata, you have all these manufacturing companies, Dunlop and Michelin. We have to go back to that.
Right. Okay. We sincerely hope that the government or those that are concerned will take a cue from some of these suggestions, and hopefully it would help us see a better economy come 2025. Our time is fast spent on this segment, and we have to wrap up the conversation with you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Adebiyi, Sijibomi, Benet. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year once again.
Happy New Year. Enjoy the rest of your week.